with a lot of these, it's asking yourself, would I ask this to anybody, regardless of their gender, race, disabled, their sexuality? You ask yourself, would I ask anybody this? And if the answer is no, then
you don't need to.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys? I'm Alisha.
And I'm Shelina. We are student ambassadors here at the University of Winchester. Welcome to the Inside Out.
This episode is called Not So Micro. In recent years, more and more research has shown how microaggressions impact our world. These are often indirect, subtle, or unintentional acts of discrimination against a marginalised group, such as racial or ethnic minority.
We wanted to discuss this openly and honestly about the day-to-day microaggressions faced by students at the University of Winchester. We want to explore the importance of a culture that values inclusivity and diversity and help students and staff understand the challenges microaggressions present on campus and wider communities, and most importantly, what we can do about it.
Well, yeah, as you can see, we've got some prompts, I guess, so to reveal what topic we're doing, in case you didn't know. We are going to be discussing microaggressions today. Do you guys know what a microaggression is? Do you have a definition of it?
For me, microaggressions operate almost in the unspoken. You can't put your finger on it, but you can feel offended after it's happened. But because it's not overt hate or anything like that, it can almost feel as if you're not sure if it happened.
I had that one time, I went, I can't remember where, but it was for an appointment somewhere, and the lady was like, "Oh, we've had loads of Indians in today." I'm like, I just don't, I don't understand what you want me to say to them. They're like, "Oh, it's been really nice, and just loads of you." I'm like, okay. So again, it's a categorization as well, which is very odd. You don't know what to reply when you're in a public setting. Sometimes you feel awkward as well.
I mean, a lot of people, they don't realise something that they're saying is a microaggression until someone says anything. Unless something is said, then people don't always know, and they might say something similar next time to someone else.
That's really good that you brought that up, because I feel like part of what it is this unconscious bias, and people have these thought processes in their head, and it only takes them saying it out loud and being held accountable for it for them to actually know, you know what, actually this is not the right thing to think about, or the right thing to say in front of anyone.
Well, we've got some more, as you can see. I know it looks like just white squares on the table, but we've got some more prompts. They're up for discussion as to whether they are microaggressions or not. So we'll flip a few and we'll go through, and so I'll do two here. Do you want to read that one out? What is it?
So that one is, can I touch your hair? This is something that I've experienced a lot. It doesn't ever feel like it's coming from a bad place. People are very complimentary. "Oh, I love your hair. Can I touch it?" And you're like, no. It feels like an invasion of your space.
Yeah.
And I've never felt the urge to ask anyone to touch their hair. So
Why do they have the urge to want to touch yours?
Yeah, and it just makes you feel vulnerable. It gets your back up, but that almost adds to, like you say, your feelings of, I'm just not going to say anything because I might have made it something in my head that it might not be. And yeah, for me it is a microaggression because it's just, it is something that makes me feel negatively.
Different ethnicities will receive different microaggressions and different treatments. So for us, from an Asian minority ethnic, we wouldn't sort of have
It
this.
depends.
Really?
Yeah, because my sister's got I would say the same hair as yours, Alisha, and she gets people ask her, "Can I touch your hair?" And she's like, "But why?"
People just think, "Oh, it's hair, go over it." But I think when you live with this hair, you do tread a different path.
I think for some people it's an identity, their hair, and when someone invades that, you just feel uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Do you guys understand the other one there? Others actively change direction.
No.
Elaborate. I guess like someone like crossing the street, if they see someone that they're uncomfortable with.
They like actively walk in a different direction or like cross to the other side of the road.
I can't say I've personally experienced it, and I think potentially as a black male this would happen more often. And I know that my brothers, for example, would be stopped and searched and I wouldn't, because my gender then perhaps has a part in that. The fact that somebody feels the need to take a longer route because your presence is, definitely a microaggression.
That's what I find really triggering about this microaggression, is that there's really no explanation. You don't ever come into close contact with that person because ironically they've walked away from you. So you don't ever get that reasoning as to why someone's done it. You then start sort of having thoughts in your head and self-doubt of like, oh, it was because of this, it was because of this. And then could even get to the point of like, you know what, I don't even want to go outside anymore. And I don't want people to think I'm a danger to them.
Mm-hmm. For me, quite a lot of microaggressions that happen through language and people saying something that makes you feel uncomfortable. That is somebody's behaviour, and it could just be completely innocent that someone's realised they've gone the wrong way on Google Maps or whatever it might be. But I think if it's something someone's experienced every single day of their life, you are going to start to question, what is it about me that people walk away or distance themselves?
Yeah. But shall we flip over some more? Yeah, I'll just flip these two. I'll let you know if I want to experiment with my sexuality and you speak good English.
I mean, completely problematic. Even, I think people think they're being complimentary, but why say it?
I think it's funny you say that, because I feel like you can argue that with, there's no malice or bad intent by it. They think that that's a compliment or like something positive for you. Like, you know what, you speak really eloquently, like you speak really good English, like as if that's supposed to make me feel better. Like my own personal experience, I've literally had someone say those exact words to me.
Really?
Yeah. It was actually my first week of uni and I didn't really know these girls very well, and we went to the pub, and Winchester is quite highly populated with white people. So I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, and they were just very surprised that my accent was British. And you're like, I was born and brought up here, so what else would my accent sound like? Yeah. So you're in that moment and you're kind of frozen and you can't really quick think, and you walk away from the situation, you go home and you really process what actually has happened.
Yeah. What I hear if someone says that, and I have had someone say that to me, is the accent. It's not actually like how I comprehend and speak, it's my accent is what they mean is when you say you speak good English.
So yeah, this other microaggression that we have here, I'll let you know if I want to experiment with my sexuality. I don't feel like I'm educated enough to speak on that, but just wanted to know if you guys had any thoughts on it.
I totally get that, like, you might be in a group chat with like a load of people, and if someone comes out or just mentions that they have a girlfriend, and then I guess people just sort of think it's okay to make jokes about that, I guess. And you see it also in films or something, like someone's gay in a film and then like another character will be like, oh yeah, well I can change that. I'm like, no, you can't really, no matter what you say, I guess.
It's seen as like, oh, they don't mean it like seriously, like they're just joking around when they say like, oh, like I'll change that. But clearly that person's affected by it. They're literally like, no, you can't change those kinds of things.
Definitely. So it doesn't just happen in films.
Yeah, in real life, yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can I help you with that? Your hands look full. Do you mind if I maybe go first?
Yeah.
Because I've worked in a lot of shops. I was a manager at Marks and Spencer's for a while, and we were trained to just ask if people needed help, if they looked like they were maybe struggling. So I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
I personally think it's like the same with all microaggressions. It's a very personal thing, because someone can be affected by it, and someone from the same group, or you know, if we're going to say it that way, might not be affected by that compliment. So I guess I don't think it would be rude to ask at least once. If the person makes it clear that they do not want your help, then there's no need to push for that.
Because it could be the other way around, like that they are struggling and they did want someone to help them, but they think that people are ignoring them just because people don't want to ask, I guess. But I don't know for certain.
I think with a lot of these, it's asking yourself, would I ask this to anybody, regardless of their gender, race, whether they're disabled, their sexuality. Ask yourself, would I ask anybody this? And if the answer is no, then
you don't need to ask.
Yeah.
This next one here is also one of those like sticky ones. It says, I believe the most qualified person should get the job. What do you guys feel about that?
Well, there was something in the news recently. I was wondering if anyone had sort of any opinions on it. The BBC, they posted a job application for a research role, and they said that the role was only open to people from a BAME background. And I don't know how people think about that.
What's the reason why they're advertising for a BAME position? Because I do think BAME jobs are very important. If it is because the position is specified for a BAME person.
It's for a research job with one of their wildlife nature programmes. Personally, I think it's just that they are trying to diversify their workforce, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just the way they sort of maybe go about it and like categorising it all up in a box, maybe. Or
I think for me, it's not happening naturally. So the fact that we've even got to put a post out to specify that's problematic.
It's like, it's almost bittersweet news, because it's like, it's amazing that this change is happening and that we're moving forward. But at the same time, it's like, but it's not. It's sad that this has to be a thing.
Even the microaggression off the back of that, when somebody gets that position, then you have the microaggression, well, you only got that because you're So
I think it works for things like
It's a catch-22.
Yeah, exactly. All amazing points, to be fair. Should we open all of them?
How many times has Donald Trump said that?
So what does that say? What does it say? I have loads of black friends. Or I would have voted for Obama twice.
oh, my neighbour's friend's cat's uncle is black. Wow.
Yeah. Where is the logic behind it? You have a black friend. Okay, great. Like, that doesn't help you in the situation at all. That is not you trying to redeem yourself from the wrong thing that you've said. Don't try.
You're not going to have a black friend after that. After saying that.
Exactly.
It can kind of link to this. I don't see
I was
colour.
thinking that.
It's a very controversial compliment because
people really think that is the right thing to say.
I think they say it in a way like that. There's like, oh, but like I'm not racist on that. It's like, well, you need to see colour because we are still equal, but you still need to see that we are different, if that makes sense.
It's a way to shut down a conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't see colour. Like,
it's like there's people that
we
say
all have
lives
one
matter.
race, the human race. No. Some of us don't have the same opportunities. We're still fighting. So we're not one human race at the moment, unfortunately.
I mean, that's something that I've been definitely guilty of, like as a kid. Like I grew up not sort of seeing sort of the privilege like sort of I've got with my background, and obviously now I've heard people's stories, heard a lot more about this sort of these issues, and I obviously now I know different, but
You're actually someone that wants to learn. There are people that don't want to, and they're just set in their ways.
I didn't realise how much history we didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, a lot of it we don't get taught in schools, right?
We're not taught about the apartheid, anything.
Exactly. So you have to go off in your own time and educate yourself, but then again that's also a choice. So you then have these group of people that don't want to do that at all, and then you have a group of people that do and do really want to educate themselves and do want to have these conversations, tough conversations.
Most countries have a world history class and a sort of national history class, whereas we just sort of have one general sort of syllabus. It's like my friend, I couldn't believe it when she didn't know who Rosa Parks was, and I think that was absolutely atrocious. Like I was like, okay, that's not okay.
That's why you can't blame people for not knowing until it gets to a certain age. I think then you kind of know to make your own decisions.
And you kind of have to be exposed to it to sort of realise and understand. It's like, I know you took the time to educate yourself, but if you weren't exposed to it, then there's that fine line about how would you know? How would you, it's not your fault at all. So this other microaggression that we have here.
You don't look like a lesbian, and that's so gay. And which one of you, where is that one again? Yeah, and which one of you is the guy?
People just assume that one person in a relationship will be, even if you're both female, even if you're both male, they just assume one person will be more feminine, one person will be more masculine.
Yeah.
And why?
People want to see like that traditional like male and female in a household, and that's how their social construct is viewed of life and a family, and they clearly don't realise that you don't need to have that to have a family.
It's like forcing people to be in the box that only you're comfortable with.
Absolutely.
I mean, they are changing the curriculum now for sex ed slowly. I mean, there's a lot of opposition to it, but if they're not changing it massively, they're just changing it so the pictures in like the books or whatever are necessarily not always a mum and a dad. They might have a mum and a mum and stuff like that. And I think kids are starting to slightly understand, and obviously there's still a lot to do, but just the fact that I guess you could have a conversation like that with a kid.
Yeah, well, adding this into the national curriculum is something that should have happened a long time ago.
To avoid us having to have that conversation about how do we make it not so juvenile at university level.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be taught at university level, but it's going to have to be.
People should know at university level. It's not something that should be taught when you're an adult, an official adult. So if we get it sort of into the national curriculum and people are taught from a young age where they're at an age where they can actually start to understand or have some basic understanding, then hopefully this shouldn't be a conversation that we should have in the future.
I agree.
Well, going off of this, I know we could talk for like hours and hours, but off of education, one of our last questions, we're all uni students here at Winchester, and we were kind of wondering like what you think the uni's response has been, what do you feel about the response, and what do you think that there can be anything else that can be done towards students facing microaggressions at the university?
I think definitely things are moving in the right direction. The fact we're even here today, like having this conversation, is amazing. I think particularly around freshers, people that are first coming to the university, there just needs to be more of transparency and openness. The same way we have the kind of induction week and we are played videos about consent. Why not have a video about microaggressions? Because as Beth said, she's gone through an education system and a culture that some of these things are just normal, and that's fine, but we have an opportunity to actually nip it in the bud and say, actually, have you thought about it like this? And have people get in the same room and actually have a conversation. I think, yeah, it would be amazing to see more stuff like this happening.
Absolutely. Do you think, like, obviously when you come to uni, you're 18 plus, so people are adults, so there's that thing of how do you approach it in a way that doesn't come across so patronising? Because I'm sure a lot of them know, but kind of need to be pushed a little bit anyway. But do you have any thoughts on like how they could possibly do it in a way or approach it in a way that doesn't come across so like really, really basic, like infant steps almost?
There just needs to be a transparency to say, you might not know this, and that's okay. It's not your fault. Like, it's not to put the blame on anyone and say, you don't know this, you know, you're a bad person. It's nothing like that. It's just that transparency of saying, you may or may not know this, but we're going to tell you anyway, because then you'll definitely know. And I think personally it should be mandatory. Exercising that option is, again, problematic because you have the privilege to just switch off, but for us, this is our lived experience. So yeah, personally, I feel like it should be mandatory, and you don't have to be really hardline with it. It just needs to be a conversation that happens.
Well, I was going to wrap it up. I think that was amazing.
I think we are going to wrap it up.
I would love to have chatted about every single one of these.
Thank you so much.
It's all right. Yeah, well done, guys.
Thanks, guys. That was great.